Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc., the show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. Relax, the keyboard is off and the press box is closed, but the mic is just getting warmed up. Join your host, Lance Green, the guardian of the blue paint turned writer, and your co-host, Ron, SteelFlyers, as we bring you all the latest on the Philadelphia Flyers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next episode of the Hockey Writers Inc. with your host, Ron Mont. Hey, how you doing, folks? Thank you very much for joining us. We got the ultimate man sitting next to us. That's right, folks. The great Pearlo Wisdom is sitting in here with us. That's right. And we're going to be talking about the Philadelphia Flyers 2025 NHL Draft. What do you think, Pearlo?
Oh, it was an interesting draft, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the format wasn't maybe the best, but it was interesting to see how this was interesting to see where picks went. I think
Yeah.
that's what I was most interested in what philosophy each team was going to have with their picks, and it was interesting what philosophy Philadelphia did. Kind of something that I think everybody was hoping they would do. And
We're taking the words right out of my mouth, my man. Holy moly.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Well, folks, I tell you what, thank you all very much for joining us. And if you like what we do, please hit the like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate that. By the way, big thanks to Spreaker for all your help in getting us to all the podcasting platforms. All you have to do is go out there and type Hockey Writers Inc., and we will come up, give us a 5-star rating, and we'd really appreciate that. Because thanks to you folks, we are a top 10 Philadelphia Flyers centric podcast, ranked number 10 in all of Philadelphia Flyers podcasts. Thank you very kindly. Thank you. Thank you. So here we go, folks. Episode number 197. Number 197. We're going to talk about a review here of the Philadelphia Flyers 2025 NHL Draft. And I had to bring in one of the experts, of course, with Pearlo and all of his great prognostications and information he's got in the NHL, just period. By the way, check Pearlo out with the Ice Guys. You can check them out on YouTube and be sure to follow them guys and see all the great stuff that they're doing out there. Ranked the number one best North American capper in the land. So you got to go check them guys out. Ice Guys featuring the great Pearlo Wisdom. So here we go, man. Philadelphia on the clock, pick number 6, and they pick Porter Martone. Initial thoughts?
I love him. I mean, I I thought I had him actually a little higher. I thought somebody might reach for him. I heard, maybe not as physical as Kachuk, but I've heard like Stone-ish type stuff out of this
Yeah, yeah,
kid.
yeah.
Yeah, like Mark Stone type kind of player. Not the fastest skater in the world, but really intelligent and slick passer, super good passer. It reminds me of Stone. Like I've watched him a little bit. I don't
Yeah,
know if he's ever going to be that good, but
yeah.
I'm just saying when I see him play, he certainly has that because Stone's a great passer.
Yep.
She seems to have that two-way. Maybe not as physical as like a lot of scouts would like to see him get a little more physical. Maybe it's not his natural way, but um, I I thought it was at that spot. I think he was the best player available for sure.
Okay. So you and that is exactly what I believe, even what Danny Briere said in his press conference, was they were taking the best player available at that particular point in time. And with the sixth overall pick and Porter Martone is on the board, you gotta go for that pick. You would have to you would be foolish not to make that pick because he adds he checks off a lot of boxes for Philadelphia. Number one, he could potentially be that 1 or 2 C, okay, which is what Philadelphia needs. Really, they really need now a 2C now with the Zegras trade and everything else like that. But I think that Porter Martone can step in sooner rather than later, being that 2 or even a 3C. He's got size, which is what Philadelphia lacks down the middle. Okay. He's got that scoring, natural scoring ability. The guy knows how to score goals. Okay. It's been a really long time, as far as I'm concerned, that Philadelphia has been able to draft a guy who is just that prolific at scoring goals, a finisher.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and he's a playmaker though. Like he's a hell of a good playmaker. Uh, so yeah, he's a solid player. That's for sure, no doubt about it.
Okay. So now we're going along and we see that, Philadelphia's got the 22nd pick and the 31st pick in the first round. And we're seeing a lot of centers going off the board here at the beginning of the draft here in the first round. And we all thought, okay, well, what is Philadelphia going to do? What is Philadelphia going to do? Well, I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to trade their 22nd pick overall and their 31st pick overall to select at number 12, right? So they moved up from 22nd, and then from 31st, they moved up to the 12th pick to pick Nesbitt.
Yeah.
Okay. And I gotta tell you something, man. Out of the Windsor Spitfires, this guy, everybody was like, who is this guy? Where is this guy coming from? Because he wasn't even projected until like third round, I think. Right.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts here on Mr. Jack Nesbitt? 6 foot.
Actually, I had a lot of people putting him a lot higher than the third round. Actually, I
Okay.
don't know. Maybe some might have not been, but I know scouts that had him. They definitely reached a little bit as far as what I heard. A lot of scouts did, but he's that kind of guy that um, that I it depends on what people value. A lot of people don't value third line centers very much, and that's likely what he's going to be. But he's got second line center upside, and I don't know if you look at championship teams that I've seen. They've had some back when Tampa Bay was winning cups. Sorelli was a third line center, right? Uh, Florida had Lundell as their third line center.
Hello.
Uh, I can't remember Colorado's third line. I can't remember what Colorado's third line
Oh
center was.
yeah, yeah.
I'd have to look at it.
Was it wasn't Kadri when they won the cup, was it?
I think yes, it was. It
Yeah, it
was
was
Colourado.
Kadri. Yeah.
Now they might be a little more offensive than they're saying Nesbitt is going to be, but um, like Lundell is just getting that. The one time that they won the cup, he wasn't really when he made it to the finals 2 years ago. He wasn't really putting up a lot of points.
No.
These are just solid, big, two-way guys that every team needs. And sometimes you have teams that are so deep that you have a guy like him on the fourth line. It's just because you're that deep, and
Yeah.
they are
Yeah.
so valuable to have
Agreed.
because when you got that kind of depth, you're going to beat up on a lot of teams. And this is the kind of guy that I see Nesbitt being. He's one of those guys that can fill up. And remember, okay, he's way bigger than Pajot, but
Yeah.
Pajot, I mean, as far as how he was utilized in his prime, he played second line sometimes, third line
Third line.
sometimes.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
You could put him fourth line wing. The
Yep.
guy never complained.
He moved up and down. Yeah.
This is what Nesbitt reminds me of.
Agreed.
He's got great character. He'll do whatever he wants for the team. He's
Ooh.
not going to say, I want to be a second liner or I want to be this. He just wants to play and fill in a role on the team. And that's what I like about him.
You said the key word,
Character.
Pearlo, character. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're getting with Porter Martone as well too, because this kid had a poster of Claude Giroux on his wall when he was growing up.
That's a good example of what he could be right there.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Okay.
That's a really good example, actually.
Okay,
he's more of a winger that way, but he's got that same type of prototype, like
Exactly.
that. I could
Like,
definitely see that's a really
but
good example.
he's got a little bit more size
Yeah, he has
than
more size than
Giroux,
Giroux.
right?
Yeah,
Because 6'3",
yeah.
204, right? That's bigger than Giroux, and I don't
He's
know.
not as good of a skater as Giroux was,
And he doesn't have quite the hands,
but
but
he's got the passing ability, and he's physical and all of that.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, I could see
yeah. Okay,
Giroux's a good comparison.
all
Okay.
right, okay. So, with their other second round pick, uh, they traded with Seattle. So they traded 36 back to 38. So Seattle got the 36th pick, and Philadelphia got the 38th pick. And they picked Carter Amico,
Mm-hmm,
a huge defenseman whom
mm-hmm.
really like this guy coming out of the United States National Development Team. Oh my goodness. Uh, I like this guy's game. He's got some grit. He's not afraid to put the gloves down. He's not afraid to stand up to players that are coming in where they shouldn't be. He's a great defensive player. He's a plus player. So as far as I'm concerned, that's all good points in my book.
I mean, it seems like a lot of teams are going for size here in Philadelphia. Certainly wasn't had no short was certainly on that probably more than anybody else. Size was seemingly their biggest thing they wanted to add to their lineup somewhere down the road in sooner. This from what I've heard that he's fairly raw,
Yeah.
but he's not a guy that's going to be playing in like 2 years or something like that, 3 years or something like that. But and he was he had a knee injury, and I think
Yeah.
that was what I heard is if he would have played a full season, he could have easily been a pick up there in the first round.
First round.
Um,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, but he's got good mobility for a big man, and that's what I've heard most people like about him. He's got
Skates too.
pretty good. One guy that came up, but they think he's even more physical than him. That that I've heard him be compared to as far as stylistically is Goodbranson
Ooh, okay.
yeah. So
That's a pretty
that's
good.
one name that came out from this guy. But like you said, he'll drop him. He's got that old school mentality. He's not afraid to drop him. We need that more, not just in Philadelphia, but in the game itself. By the way.
but he's also got that size as well too, because he's a presence on the, you know what I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? 6'6", 200 pounds. Yeah, okay, all right, all right.
Yeah.
By the way, just want to say this, and it was something that I noticed because you mentioned it earlier. Almost exclusively in the second and third round, I think there was no player that was selected that was under 6 foot, right?
Through all the drafts, through all
Well,
the teams.
yeah, for just the second and third round, I think there was a couple
Yeah.
guys that went in the first round, a couple guys that went in some of the other rounds, but I think there was like 2 rounds there consecutive where there wasn't a player that wasn't selected that was under 6 foot. And Philadelphia definitely was following that mantra throughout this entire draft. Every single one of their players, with the exception of 2 players, okay, are all above 6 foot or massively above 6 foot, are
Right.
either above 200 pounds or close to 200 pounds for
Yeah.
the most part. Okay. All you have to do is just like what Pearlo said, look at Tampa Bay when they were winning cups. Look at Florida now that they've been winning cups 2 in a row. Look at when Colorado was winning a cup, right? All you have to do is look at that, and what do they have? Size up the middle.
Yeah.
All right,
They have size up the middle and good two-way guys. Yeah, that's the way to go.
exactly. And some good defense that play defense first.
Mhm.
I don't care if my defensive guys aren't scoring 40 goals a game or 40 goals a year, okay? As long as they're in the plus, Okay. And as long as they're helping out with some assists, I don't care how many goals they have. Right. As long as they're plus and as long as they're playing defense, hey, that's what they're there for. Amy, it's just me. All right. Sorry. With the 40th pick, the Philadelphia Flyers did a little bit of fandangling trading there with Anaheim again, because they traded and got they traded the 45th pick away in this year's draft for the Trevor Zegras and the Poling, and then they finagled and got the 40th pick from Anaheim, I guess, or something like that. I don't know, but they ended up with Jack Murtaugh, left winger from United States development team, 6'1", 198 pounds. I mean, I really like this kid's game. I think, like you say, when you start getting kids drafted this late in the second, third rounds, they're 2-3 years away. But I still like this kid's game. I still think he's going to be a good asset to the team.
Murtaugh is a guy that I heard could have slipped into the first. There was a lot of scouts that I saw on the board that really liked him in the first round.
40th overall. I mean, second round, so 40th overall. But I'm
Yeah,
feeling you though. Yeah.
yeah, it's 40th overall. I mean, really, things can like it's not that much of a difference there. But as far as 40 to 30 or whatever the case may be, but I heard somewhere some scouts had him like 25, 26, something like that. They really like his skills for a big man. Simple as that. He's probably project more of a bottom six type guy, but he's probably a safer pick than a lot of picks that you could get in the draft here. He's one of the safer guys. More than likely, going to be a going to make it to the fourth line somewhere in on some team in his career. That's what I've heard.
Okay.
So
All right.
he's got a really high. He doesn't have a high ceiling, but he's got a high floor. Like
Yeah, I'm
it's
with
just
you.
he's the type of guy that for his work ethic is unreal. He's driven. He's clean living, and he's focused on making the NHL, and he doesn't let too much get in his way of it. And those guys are wonderful to have because they
Because
usually have a pretty good floor. Because if you have a guy like that and somebody else has equal talent, but they're like kind of more aloof, you're probably going to take him because you're probably going to have him on your team because he's going to be a better example for young players that are trying to take the spot, right?
exactly. And
That's what I've heard about him.
and
He's the example guy you want on your team if you can make it.
he's the kind of guy that's gonna go through the brick wall for you. You
Not
know,
to.
that's that yeah, and I think I think you explained it perfectly, Perlo. Okay. So Danny wasn't done here in the second round.
Mhm.
Picked up Shane Van Sage from Michigan State, 6'3", man, 212 pounds, a forward. What can I say about this guy? This guy, I think he was projected to go a little higher, I think, than what he did get to. But I think this is another value pick because
Mhm.
of him slipping a little bit and then being one of the better, safer picks to get at that spot. I really think that was a good deal for them because they also did a trade with Calgary to get to that spot there at 48.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the fact that he's a Finn. To tell you the honest truth, that Finnish, seriously, that Finnish group right
Eh,
now, the
yeah.
way they're bringing up players, they're coming in with a lot of passion. They're coming in with a good mindset and a grindy type game. When you play Finland in any international, you're in for a fight. And they
Yeah,
might
that's
not
a
have as much talent, but you're in for a fight.
oh
You
yeah.
watch those Finnish games. You don't see too many times that the Finns get beat out like 5-1 or 6-1,
No.
even against uh, a much better talent, or at least on paper, anyways. Like
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
they may not win, but you're not in for an
You're
easy
gonna
game.
limp away from that game.
Yeah, yeah, you're gonna know you played a game. They're gamers
Yeah.
now, and so getting somebody this high at what 50 points in 41 games for Furlan's under 20 junior team. Yeah, that at this 132. I honestly don't know much about the whole player himself, but that's pretty high point total for a guy who did that well against the under 20s. And I do know that under 20, the junior team, like I said, that's the way they work. I think to a man, there's no passengers on that Finnish team, if no matter what. So more than likely, this is one of those guys, and it's sort of a theme with Philadelphia here. They're looking for what something like you mentioned about Florida. They're looking for that level of compete and more than anything right now, I think that's what Philadelphia is looking for. Is because with the guys that they picked here, this is what you're getting. If you're not going to be the most talented guy, you're going to compete.
Okay.
That's simple as
Okay.
that. Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
now the last pick that they had in the second round, which was another multi-team trade that Danny Briere pulled off here to get another second rounder. So he still got one, two, three, four picks in the second round. Okay, even though one was traded to Anaheim for Zegras, he still got four picks. This was the last of the second round for the Flyers. Matthew Guard, Canadian from Red Deer, the WHL, 6'5", 195 pound center. And following the same mantra here, big size, but this guy can skate. This guy can score. Okay. A lot of people I think saw him sooner than where he was selected. So I think once again, Perla, we're looking at another player here that may be the best available player at the moment.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, is another thing about this kid. I don't know. I mean, I think he's pretty raw. But usually they are in these spots. But one thing I can say about him for sure is he's from Winnipeg, Manitoba. And just like I was saying about the Finns, you watch those Western junior
Yeah.
teams,
Yeah.
and my parents are from Manitoba.
Okay.
My guess is likelihood he comes from a farmer's background.
Yeah.
Like this is all they are looking for work ethic and grind in all of these players right now. They go out and get a guy like Zegras. They have some guys on their team that are more, skill and not really pizzazz, but I think they're looking for guys to be able to push to compete in this Philadelphia team.
I agree.
Um, if you're bringing in somebody like Zegras, it's not somebody that has been known to push the compete in his career. He's been a little immature and stuff like that. So you got to have a mix. You got to have a mix. And you bring in guys like this that are going
Yeah.
to put, even if they don't make the team, they're going to push the compete for whoever's going to have to take them out. And
You
they're
know, I'm
going
with
to
you.
bring a
Yeah. Yeah.
competitive culture to the organization. So I think that's kind of what they're going here. And I worked on the rigs in Manitoba, and I worked with a lot of farmers minus 40, which is the same in Fahrenheit, believe it or not. Yeah, up on a stick,
Yeah.
wet, grinding, middle of a field, wind and everything. And I worked with some of these guys, and they're some of the
Wow.
toughest mothers I ever saw in my life.
I
And I
bet.
crazy. I was not as tough as them. The only reason why I didn't complain is because they would beat me silly. That's the only reason. Like, they were unbelievable.
All
So that's the
right.
kind of Manitoba attitude you're getting there, and that's probably
Okay.
what this kid's all about. And those are always good to have.
And you touched on it with some of the other players that Philadelphia has also drafted, and it's character.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what's going on here
Hmm.
because of and I think this is a very indicative of the coach that they just hired now with Rick Tocchet, where you're starting to get more of these character type guys, where you're starting to get more of the larger guys because you can't field an entire team of diminutive players and expect to be successful when the league is fielding guys that can just smother them.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so you have to get away from the okay, it's okay to have one or two guys that are, sub 6 foot, but one or two guys, maybe. You know what I mean? And you especially don't want to have defensemen that are, diminutive, right? I mean, not in this league. It's a hard sell for that.
Depends on like somebody like Hudson, maybe. You got those extreme talent guys, but
But
yeah,
that's
it's
what I
getting
mean.
back. They went and Philadelphia did it. Again, there's the it's going to be a speedier type game, and they started drafting smaller guys. And where are they now? They're not. They're not. They're not here.
Well,
Even Frost, the kid's got talent, but you know,
so I think what happened was is that they wanted to try to get speedier guys, but they didn't have a coach who had a system that was able to utilize those speedier guys in a system that made them successful. Because Tortorella's system is not necessarily built on the speediest guys, right?
hmm
Where which is kind of ironic because I think now that Tockett's in and he has more of the dump and chase, and you need more of those speedier guys because you need guys to be able to win the race to the puck. So this all the way said, I think this is going to be very interesting to see how these draft picks pan out. You know what I mean, and where they land and everything else like that. Um, Philadelphia's had three more extra picks, two in the fifth round. Max Westergaard, Luke Voloswick, and in the sixth round they had Nathan Quinn, respectively. Like I said, all the way through though. Perlo, what would you give the grade here on the Flyers as far as their draft so far, just on paper, what we've seen so far?
it's tough to say with these kids, but I mean, let's put it this way: if what I think is correct in their philosophy was to do what I said, what I'm thinking their philosophy was, I'd
Yeah,
give them an A.
yeah,
I'd give them an A. I think it's good for a team to go in with the philosophy of what you need and what you want to put in and what you want your culture to be
exactly.
for your team. And what I like about it is, like I said, if some of these kids, a lot of these kids may not make it, but they are going to be fighting for spots. And if they may see something in their system where they're like going into uh, training camps and they don't like to compete, you know. So if these kids aren't making it, they're going to be competing. Most of the kids we just talked about, that would be like the theme through the whole thing. These kids are competitors, and
Yeah,
they're going to go in and they're going to fight and they're going to try to get their spot. So nobody's going to be get floated a spot in Philadelphia. And so if that was their philosophy, and I think they are, and you're probably more in tune with what it was to begin with in the draft than that, I'd
yeah,
say I would give them an A. And I really love Porter Martone.
yeah.
I liked him before. I had him higher than that. I liked him better than Higgins. I would have taken him over Higgins. So
Wow. Okay, well, you heard it here first, folks. Pearlo Wisdom with his little nuggets of wisdom there, man. He would have taken first. So, all right. Honestly,
I wouldn't have taken him first overall. I would have taken Boston took Higgins.
yeah,
Boston took Higgins. So I would
yeah,
have taken him. If I was Boston, I would have took Martone.
yeah, yeah. I'm see. Well, thank you, Boston, for not taking him, and thank you for taking
Yeah.
Higgins. We're going to be seeing Higgins eventually at some point. You know what I mean? So, but I'll tell you what, Perlo, I have to agree. I give the Flyers an A as well. I do like Porter Martone. I do like Jack Nesbitt. I do like Carter Amico, even though he's raw. I still like, even though you said he doesn't necessarily have that high ceiling, he does have a really high floor. And all of
Mhm.
these guys are character guys. All of these guys are bigger than 6 foot. All of these guys are more than 186 pounds. You know what I mean? So the size, the depth of centers and wingers couple of defensemen sprinkled in there. I was very shocked that they didn't take a goaltender in this one. But okay, I guess they're gonna try to get Bjornsson a little bit more time. I really hope they do, because what I think is going to happen is he's probably going to take over there in Lehigh and play majority of the time down there, because Philadelphia is going to roll with Erson and Fedotov as far as goaltending is concerned, and I think you're going to see Bjornsson down there in Lehigh for this year. It would be nice if they could do that and get him some playing time, because Peterson is now finally out down there in Lehigh, so that'll slot him in there as well too. So I like that down there. But all in all, I give it an A. Pearlo, you gave it an A as well, right? Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I think that's a pretty good deal there. I think that's a pretty good assessment of what the Philadelphia Flyers were able to do in the 2025 NHL Draft. Pearlo, you had mentioned at the beginning of the show the format. I got to be honest with you, I am not a fan of the format at all. I really missed the every single general manager getting up, especially in the first round. Every general manager getting up, along with all the whole rest of the team, getting up there and thanking the host city, and then everybody cheering, and then saying thank you to Gary Bettman, and then everybody booing, and then you know.
Yeah.
No, but I what I really missed though was the pomp and circumstance of the team announcing the picks, and then the player going up on stage and getting the jersey from the team, and the hugs from the team, and then the picture, and then everybody leaves. You know what I mean? Like this whole thing felt very forced. This whole thing felt very unorganic, very just like you're forcing these guys into talking about stuff, and I just didn't like it.
It was supposed to shorten it.
Well, no,
certainly did not.
No,
so
it did not.
I don't think it hit any of the check marks that they were hoping for, except for the fact that a lot of the big wigs got to stay home and didn't have to come in. But honestly, I think the reason why it happened more than anything, and I don't even think they were confident it was going to work, but I think they had so much work on that Four Nations, and there was that Four Nations thing that I think they just wanted to make it easier to not have to organize all that stuff at the draft.
It's possible, but the logistics to organize what they had to do for this one was, I think, even more so than what they would have had to have done if they brought everybody in. Right, because they had to have all the Zoom calls. Yeah, because they had to have all the Zoom calls set up for all the teams and stuff like that. They had that whole separate room where they could go in for their Zoom call interview after they get drafted and all that stuff. You know what I mean? It's
well, yeah.
When they're doing the
announcements, it ain't happening again. There's no way. The public.
Well, so in the press conference that led up to the draft, where they were talking about how they were announcing that the collective bargaining agreement was going to be ratified and signed probably in the next couple of days. And in that press conference, and Gary Bettman even said too that majority of ownership voted for the draft to be done this way this year. So 2/3 of ownership voted for this draft to be set up like this for this year. So that's why they did it. He said if they come back to him next year and say, yeah, we want it to go back to the way it was, he'll go back to the way it was. Yeah. So there you go, right?
Like people put too much on Ben and he makes these decisions. He pretty much works the owners. Right. If the owners say we're having expansion, you're having expansion.
Hello.
You think people with $2-3 billion for the franchises are going to be like, oh yeah, do whatever you want? No. They make the decisions. He just tries to persuade them in a direction.
Pretty much.
Anyways,
that's enough time. Yeah. By the way, on Twitter and follow at
NHLPOW. That's Pearlo NHLPOW here by YouTube. You can get the Ice Guys show when I'm doing the show. You can get on my TikTok there, and just come over, just have fun discussing different topics like I just told you about the Islanders. And you don't have to be nice. I mean, I prefer it, but you don't have to be. You can come tell me all the stuff that
you're exactly.
And I will listen and get back.
There you go. So do it out. Be ready to get it